Alright folks, welcome back to Wild Wild Wiz's Gelvin Valley. We are rolling the field and we're taking care of any rock problems that remain, trying to get our new fields ready to be planted. We're getting closer, we see the soils getting smoothed down, so it's exciting times here, getting ready to turn these fields into arable powerhouses that'll take us out of debt. Here we are with our roller. We have another hour and a half, which hopefully is just enough time for us to finish the job here. It's definitely wider than the unit that we had in here for chiseling it out in the first place, so we are trying to take care of business in here. Got just a little bit here, more here, and then we'll be headed to another field. Taking care of the rocks. I'm trying to look around here in field number 23. I'm not seeing, we got just one rock here. We knocked out, I think, by our roller. Trying to see if there's any others, and I don't think there is. So I think we have successfully, hold on a minute, is there one down in the corner? I can't really tell. Maybe when we harvest, we'll see if it's still down there. Got just this last little wedge of the field to do here, and we are done. Alright. Fold this up. We'll get our indicator lights on and head on down to, let's see, field 21, I believe, is next on the agenda. So, in the last episode that we had in here, I started talking about finding mods for these older games. You know, and obviously anything prior to the most current version of the game, you know, which is Farm Sim 25. As of this recording. Anything before then is one of the so-called older games, and you know, it's getting tougher to find mods for these older games. And some of the sites, you know, that we used to go to get mods, you know, for this game are no longer there. And I'm not sure why that is. Some of it may be changes in technology. You know, the sites of the past, you know, even, let me see, it's 2025, so I record this, that's the year. 2015 is kind of when I first discovered that Farming Simulator was even a game. So even 10 years ago, you had these wonderful forums, if you will. Well, at least I thought they were wonderful. Places, you know, where people could meet over a common interest, and you could talk about all things Farming Simulator related. And those places just don't exist anymore. And why I thought they were great is because, you know, if you didn't know how to mod, you could learn how at the forum. You know, the forum was a repository of information on how to mod. Where lots of people would ask questions about how to do various things, and I just thought it was a great place to learn. That's where I learned how to, you know, to do the little bit of modding that I do know how to. You know, where I met someone who was willing to mentor me in learning, you know, some Lua coding, you know, just to help me through it, because I didn't know anything. And I think there's a lot of people still in that same boat. And in some ways, I personally think it's a little harder to learn how to mod now than when it was, you know, when these forums still existed. Now, there are a couple forums still around, and there always was the one around called the Giants Developer Network, which is put out by the Giants themselves. I think Giant staff, a couple of them, go look at the forum, and they will take questions and get answers to people as best they can. sometimes. Usually the answers given there are very short, tersely worded, and you really need to know what you're doing to take. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not useful, but you kind of need to know something to even know how to answer the question. So there is some help there. The Giants themselves also have a player forum that is alive and well, and of course they have the Mod Hub, where you can now download mods. Well, I think what came along was proliferation of Facebook, to where players or modders no longer, they wanted control of their mods, and when they put it in the hands of a forum, it was often in the hands of other people, and there'd be squabbles and this, that, the other. Anyway, things just changed over time, and however it happened, these forums went down. Well, some of these forums used to hold hundreds and thousands of mods, for several different versions. When I, in 2015, when I discovered Farming Simulator for the first time, naturally, even back then, the natural impulse was, if you want to learn more about it, you looked for additional information from the good old internet. And I think the very first forum, that popped up was FSU UK, Farming Simulator for the United Kingdom. And to me, it is still the golden standard of what a forum was intended to be for the game. And I still don't know exactly what took it all down, but I suspect some of it is cost related because, let's be real, it costs money to host a site, particularly when you're giving files for people to store there, download, or whatever. And forums are going to come with a lot of hassles. There's going to be trolls and people who are just jerks, and so you have to have a team of moderators, to deal with all the issues and problems. And if you put yourself out there as a mod hosting site and you want to have a decent reputation, well, then that means you got to have people there who are testing mods. And so anyway, I mean, it's just a lot of things were involved for those who had a forum. But it was a great place. I still miss, the interactions I was able to have at Farming Simulator UK, FSU UK. And I mean, you take the bad with the good in all of those places, right? I mean, I know there was a few jerks roaming around in there. Well, big deal. It just is what it is, and you can easily filter that out, just like we have to do in real life. Not everybody around us is nice, kind, and so we just have to square shoulders and deal with it in real life. Ditto on the forums, but they're gone. And when they disappear, there was, there was ample warning, I would say, particularly for FSU UK, where they said, we plan to close on such and such date. So, come on, get up there, you silly pendulum. Oh, good grief. I just don't understand why this thing behaves. That's something I don't understand about FarmSim 15. It's always on the outer round where this is an issue, where it's competing with the bumpiness versus the smoothness of the field. It has a few issues. So for FSUK, I mean, it was, I would say, maybe a couple months warning, when he told us he would take the site down. He being Russ, I think his name was. And so, you had warning. If you wanted to, you could make sure you could go and download that special mod or whatever that you just had to have before the site went off the air. But what I don't know is what happened to the site, after it was literally, the plug was pulled and, you no longer could go in there. I mean, the forum was shut down, everything was gone. You try to pull up FSU UK today, and of course, it probably says site for sale, or, the name is available, the domain is available if somebody wanted it. So I don't know if Russ kept all of this old stuff on a backup somewhere on his computer. I hope he did. You know, when you have all those old mods and someone put their heart and soul into making them, even the simplest thing, it's a shame, just to throw that away. But I don't know. It could be he deep sixed it all, and it's gone. Just don't know. And the reality is, all I do know is the site is no longer available. So FSUK once was a prominent site. I think into 2019 maybe was when it finally was taken off the air. Another one I went to routinely, and I live in America, so if you wanted American mods, its sister counterpart, if you will, to FSU UK would have been American Eagles Modding, or AEM. And I say sister counterpart. In reality, AEM was it was a good site. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't near as prestigious, nor did it have as many mods or as broad a base of modders in it. But it's still, for the American side, was a place where you could go and exchange ideas, get assistance and help, and learn modding. There was, back in the day, if you were modding, I don't know how it was for others, but I know for me, you often would just scour the forums for information, for help, and you learned how to search sites and turn them upside down and shake for the information that they had to offer, just to try to get that one little nugget, that tidbit, to help you with whatever modding problem that you might be trying to address. Just great places. So AEM was another one, and it just disappeared. And I know there's a number of after FSU UK disappeared, I used to go to AIM all the time, and for a while I think I just wasn't there. So who knows how long they publicized that they were going to shut down their site. There went another batch of hundreds of thousands of mods. And I think they had, let's go back to FSUK for a moment. They had mods, I think they went clear back to FarmSim 09, which was pretty unique even at the time. There weren't many sites still hosting FarmSim 09 mods, but FSUK did, and I don't think AIM went back that far. I believe they went to FarmSim 11. And just finding FarmSim 11 mods now is getting pretty tough, but I believe they had some there. But they up and disappeared, and I remember just all of a sudden remembering them and trying to go back there and seeing if I could go on there. And for a while, the old spinners on the internet that tells you it's working on it. Well, come to find out, they took the site down, pulled the plug, probably for similar reasons. They just got tired of the hassles and tired of footing the bill. Someone had to foot the bill, whoever owned the site. Most of us, let's admit it, we're cheapskates. We want to do it for free, and maybe some of those sites, well, it's just a catch-22. If you charge people, you can maybe support the site, but it won't have as much visibility. And if you don't charge people, maybe you'll have tons of visibility and people coming, but you won't be able to pay the bills, to host the mods. And I think at some point they had some ads going on some of these, and ads are always annoying to people, but the harsh reality is how else do you want to smash that? The harsh reality is that's how the bills are paid, and if you don't have an ability to pay the bills, eventually the good stuff you want to keep, is put in jeopardy. So the you don't own this field. Yes, I do. I must have interfered with the other field next to it. So eventually these forums, and another tragic one too, that in my mind should still be here. And I know there's a number of us older timers, that have commented on it a few times. Some who were, more involved in it than I ever was another forum mod hosting site called PCSG. I don't really know what PCSG stands for, but it was another alternative to FSU UK back in the day, and just a great group of guys ran it. And sometimes on forums you get a bunch of wiseacres on there, and it's a couple things. You get people that come on there and they're too lazy to search for their answer, so they set up a post with their question and they're just being lazy, some of them. And then you'll get someone who replies and says, have you heard of the search function? Just being sarcastic or whatever, trying to encourage, the person to look for it. So many times this is why you gotta search so hard when you're looking for information. Many times on the forum, you would just see a post where someone asked a question, and then you would have a whole thread of people berating the person asking the question, and saying there's a search function, this topic has been dealt with all over the place, start looking for it, you lazy, whatever. Well, the approach taken at PCSG is we're not going to treat people like that. Did I get rid of that rock? I did, somehow. We're not going to treat people like that. If someone asks a question, we'll either find them the answer or tell them we don't know, but we're not going to treat them like a numbskull. Because some people just genuinely didn't know. I mean, when I started, I didn't even really know, well, I guess I knew a little bit about what an internet forum was. But for all I know, some of the questions I asked at first were also with similar kind of ignorance. Although it didn't take long to find out. You don't win any friends if you don't put a little effort in and try to figure out, the answer as best you can with what information's there. But anyway, PCSG, as I understand it, was sold to someone. The site, the original site owner, for whatever reason, couldn't continue with it. I don't know if it was a matter of cost, so he maybe it was given, I don't know if it was sold, gave the site to someone else who promised to keep it running. And they did for a tiny little while. Then it went off the air, and I think it came back briefly for a time, and then it disappeared forever. And the baffling thing is I don't think anybody knows why. There was just no explanation, and so down the drain, all the mods that were hosted there, I hosted a mod or two there, gone. So those are now inaccessible. All the information that was there is also inaccessible, and so forth. And this now is 3 sites that I've mentioned that have gone down the tubes, and they are 3 of many. And you might, if you go to the Internet Archive, you might find a few pages from these forums, that were put in the Internet Archive. Maybe some of it's there, maybe it isn't. That's unfortunately the Internet Archive, when it came to forums, unless you helped the archive by telling them which pages you wanted it to archive, I learned this too late, it pretty well stopped at the initial page of the forum. Maybe somehow it detected all the volume of pages it had and said, hey, we're not going to go in here. I don't know. Sometimes it's amazing what you can find on the Internet Archive, that it did save, in terms of files and pictures and things. And then even basic text, it's for some reason excluded. But anyway, whatever you can find is a mere shell of course, what used to be there, and I'm pretty sure there are no mods to speak of. You might even be fortunate to find the place where they provided the link to download the mod, but I can guarantee you go and click on the link, and there's not going to be any mods that you'll be able to download. So they're just lost. So close, yet so far away, as they would say. And kind of like I said, these are, just a handful of sites of many that were set up over the years, and it's just truly unfortunate that the A went down, for whatever reason. So, but I don't want to talk about just about everything that it has gone away. There are a few still out there that are hanging on if you know where to look. And let me just see, I got kind of a list here on the other screen. I'm going to have to try to read it while trying to drive this thing in here. Whoop. Probably should put it on GPS so I don't have to go around the field quite the way I'm doing. A lot of the sites, of course, that are left are in other languages other than English. I mean, English is my native language, so kind of puts me at a little bit of disadvantage because English is the only language that I know, and many of them that are available are going to be in German. And I think last episode, I can't remember if I mentioned it yet here, is ModHoster. ModHoster, I believe, is a German site. So ModHoster is still up and running, and it has mods clear back to FarmSim 11 if you want to find some for these older versions of the game. Many, many, many good links are still in there, but ModHoster seems like a place that people used to be around, and anymore it just seems kind of devoid of anybody steering the ship, if I can put it that way. ModHoster had a lot of tools, and maybe I guess you could call them analytics or whatever, where you could see how many times a particular mod was downloaded, and of course it still shows that. But then it would allow you to sort. You could sort a list of a certain type of mods if you want by the greatest number downloaded. You could put the featured mods, which is where people voted for the best mods, the ones that are most trouble-free. They still have notations in there on a particular mod that it's featured, but what they don't have is they no longer have the ability to sort the stack of mods and slice it, dice it, if you will. So you can only go in and look at the specific categories. You can use Google to search the site. I've used that many times, and maybe someone that knows how to do Google searches really good would know how to get it to sort ModHoster's mod lists. It seems like something in the site is broken, and there's nobody there. They also have a little bit of a forum, and I left a post on this, basically asking them, how come this isn't working? And I almost think I left it a year ago, and nobody has come to answer it. Nobody has fixed it. And periodically, too, this may be in the website licensing. You'll have troubles downloading mods. It'll error out, or it'll tell you the mod site is unstable, and someone smarter than me is going to have to explain just what that is. But you can still find mods in there for these older versions, and so it keeps me. I probably go to ModHoster the most for whatever reason, and there's some other sites out there too that has them. But that's definitely one. If you enjoy playing the older versions of the game, you can check it out. Another is called Modding Welt. I think Welt means world, so Modding World in German, modding-welt.com. And I know I'm going to be throwing a couple names out here. Maybe something I could do is provide some links. One of the things I did here a month or two ago is I set up a Google Sheet and started just scouring the internet to find all of the old mod sites that I could on these older versions, all the way back to FarmSim 08, which was kind of the beginning of the franchise, if you will. And so I don't have many links for FarmSim 08 But you'd be surprised, there are a few sites still out there where FarmSim '08 mods can be found. And ditto for '09 and for all the other versions in between. Of course, the smallest page that I have is for FarmSim 25 because it's the most current version. It's going to be the most active among players, so there shouldn't be any trouble, finding mods for it. But I'll try to remember to link up the Google Sheet so that anybody listening here, if you want to download these, see what sites where mods can be downloaded for the older versions of the game. That way you can go check some of these sites out yourself. But prepare to be frustrated on it because many of these old sites, kind of like I mentioned about Mod Hoster, is I don't know if the lights are on but nobody's home, as it were, because the links, many of them are just broken. And whatever the length of time is for some of these older links, take that one out, there we go, got rid of the rock. So there may be a lot of sites, you may pull up a mod you're interested in and be alright, I'm going to download this thing, only to have your hopes crushed, when you discover that the link is broken. I can't tell you how many times, that has happened to me as I even try to do these episodes. I enjoy some of these older versions of the game and trying to find some of the mods that I remember or am interested in, and it's just frustrating. You find these pages for them with good information about the mod, and so you think you're going to be able to get the silly thing, and you just can't. So, even with a list of mod sites, it may still be that whatever mod you're interested in is still unavailable, unfortunately, just as time passes. So, I guess all that to say is, if there is ever a reason you would come back to the game, I don't know what people do with their old mods. Pretty much for me, once I download something, I don't ever throw it away. Unless, it's just horribly corrupt, doesn't work, and I don't have time, knowledge, or whatever to fix it. Maybe then I'll delete it, but more often than not, I think what I do is I quarantine it into its own folder and figure, well, maybe I'll come back to it at some point in the future. Ha ha. I don't know how many times I've said that to myself. But there it's it. So some people I know, they vacate their mods folder as soon as the newest version of the game is out. And not only do they do that, I mean, they totally delete off their computer, maybe their space is limited or whatever, all previous versions of the game, and it's as if they just turn a page and hey, if that's what they want to do, no problem. I don't consider myself really a pack rat, but I figure I'm just willing to buy more storage, more hard drive storage, so I can kind of store them, because I figure, well, I may never not know just when I may want to go back to something. I played Gelvin Valley, for example, a long time ago with my boys, probably back, let's see, this probably would have been in 16 maybe? Somewhere in the summer of 16. And then I put it down for, I don't know, years. And, then I started this series up, started doing a little YouTube, remembered it, popped the thing open, fell in love with it all over again. And so here we are, I don't know how many hundred episodes later. So I'm glad I kept it. Now, I think Gelvin Valley you can still find out on various sites if you know where to look. But I guess the point is you never know when some of these sites are just going to die, when some of the links that are working today, it may be tomorrow that they shut off. So, if there's something you want to keep, go get it. Time's a-wasting. So, mention modding Weld. I think they may go back to, I guess I don't remember. They might go into FarmSim 11. Some of them start at Farm Sim 13, but a lot of times you can still find some of the oldest stuff. Let me see here. What are some other names? There's one called LS Mod Company. I think that is a German one as well. Planet LS, and I think the LS is an abbreviation of farming. I don't know how to say it in German. I'm not going to embarrass myself in trying to pronounce it. But, you know, it's kind of funny with this game. You end up learning a little of other languages as you play it, because it's a worldwide game, and of course other modders and players want things in their tongue, and so sometimes you got to know where to look. But LS, I think, is the abbreviation for farming in German. So Planet LS, LS Mod Company, or whatever. These are farming simulator mod sites. Oh, there's one called Forbidden Mods. I think the ad is in German also. Don't know what's so forbidden about them when they are freely available on the internet. Mod Hoster I've mentioned. There's an Italian one I came across. Farming Simulator Italia? That also, I believe, is a forum. And some of these sites also still have a forum. For whatever reason, the people on there have resisted the impulse to take the things to Facebook or the latest Discord groups. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that a lot of that happened. It'd be so awesome if there was one central site, you know, where people could meet and discuss all things farming simulated and have access to all the mods, but it just isn't out there. You know, I knew someone once who also created a site that was called like Mod Searcher, searchmods.com, something like that, that apparently would look at several sites on the internet just to find mods for you. But I think also the app one has gone down. It didn't host any, it just looked for them for you. So, yeah, I'm just looking at my notes here. Some of it, I guess I'm just bemoaning that some of these nice forums and everything went down and that things change, you know, and it's, I guess, you know, change is the only constant there is in life, it seems like. And so it's just something, I mean, what do you do? It is what it is. And wringing one's hands doesn't change the fact that these sites, you know, that formerly were the places to be, just no longer are. You know, and even a place like YouTube, you know, where now literally millions of people upload videos and who knows how much footage and of what kind they have stored on there. It could go down someday. Who knows what the next greatest trick out there, technology-wise, is going to be. We just never know. So I will put a link below and share the links that I have for these old sites if anybody's interested. And let me try to skirt around this here. Power pylon. There, got rid of another rock. I don't know how I'm going to plant this. I maybe should have stayed further away from... I may just put it in grass behind the pylon there. It's probably going to be a pain in the butt to farm through that. So, anyway. Well, I'm sure everyone heard the bell go off. Like I say, I'll include a link to the Google Sheet on this video so y'all can check it out. And hopefully you can find whatever mods you're interested in. You know, another thing that would take a Herculean effort, you know, if someone was interested, is to have a forum where people could share what mods they have. You know, and if someone was looking for a mod, someone could share it with them. The thing of it is people being what they are, they probably would start charging money, or people would be jerks about it. I don't know. I think we see, whether a game or anything in life, you see the best and worst of people come out no matter where it is that people gather. So it's probably a pipe dream that someone would ever set up a site like that as well. But it would be cool. So, thank you so much for coming along to listen to little old me ramble on while I try to roll the fields and get them ready for planting. Hope you all are having a wonderful day. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.